All right, this is One-Eyed Jacks, and it's July the 4th, and the Overlook Ball, that's the date. And today I am transmitting, oh, listen to that, transmitting from the deep underground Mount Shasta. And let's minimize this right here. So July 4th is going to be the theme for this video. And yeah, I'm going to jump around in a lot of different categories, but a big part of it is the birth of this is the birthday of your country. So, in the movie, Jack goes to the bar and he tries to pay for some drinks, and Rob Ager noticed, he's brilliant, he noticed that the bills that he's trying to use were bills that were actually backed by real metals. And so that gets changed. And Kennedy does his whole silver certificate, and he had the silver dollar, and you could redeem it for $1 worth of silver if you went to the bank. So that's ended, and silver is removed from all the currency. So this is the birthday. Once again, the puzzle always works on birthdays. So this is the birthday of your country. So you're being told with this July 4th ball more than this is the day Lou Gehrig gives his luckiest man. Oh, there they are again. Luckiest man alive speech. So there's your July 4th birthday. This is a new one. I gotta. When I found this, I started laughing. But so this isn't from Full Metal Jacket. This picture, and this guy here, he's dead. And this is the Jolly Green Giants speech that he gives. We're like Jolly Green Giants, and I had misidentified this gun as a Winchester Model 77, which is almost correct because it's really a Daisy BB gun, a Red Ryder actually. So it's a Daisy Red Ryder BB gun. So what the hell is a Daisy Red Ryder BB gun doing in The Shining? So this is the same gun that we see with Crazy Earl. There he is. So here's Crazy Earl, and he's got the Daisy Red Ryder, and he's ready to storm the troops with his BB gun. And he says, "I'll play General Custard." So this is our General Custard slash George Orwell birthday clue. And he has the Daisy BB gun. Now, it turns out the first song, remember the puzzle always works on firsts. So the first song ever sung by a computer was Daisy Daisy. And so Daisy Daisy is the first song that's sung by a computer. And the employees of IBM are actually sent a letter when this happens. And they're kind of told, don't talk about this. If your friends mention, don't mention to your friends that Daisy Daisy is the first song sung by an IBM. So they try to keep keep it hushed up. They didn't really want anybody to know that, yeah, IBM created the first computer that could sing a song. So then we go to, so there's the computer in the late 50s, sings a song. So we're given IBM overtly, right on the astronaut's uniform. And we're also given IBM overtly, if you know the language, with HAL. We increment HAL one letter and it becomes IBM. Let's move this out of the way. So we have Daisy Daisy, the song. And then we have, of course, Hal sings Daisy Daisy as he's being shut down. And as he's being shut down, he says, I can feel it. I can feel my mind going. No, how does he say? Oh, God, let me just get a quote from this. Yeah, so Hal says, I can feel my mind. All right, now what the hell? So he says, my mind is going. I can feel it. My mind is going. I can feel it as he unplugs him. So why I'm doing this is because I want to show you how woven together this puzzle is. So we have Daisy Daisy in 2001. We have the song Daisy Daisy and Hal sings it. We have the IBM on the uniforms, and we have Hal. It's the first song ever sung by a computer, IBM computer. There's actually a mini movie with Arthur C. Clarke, and they talk about the computers and everything. And Daisy Daisy is sung in that actual program where they talk about the computer that can sing a song. So remember, Apollo is a musician. So singers would be musicians. And then we have the Daisy BB gun. So we have a gun connected to Daisy Daisy. We have the computer connected, IBM computer, first computer ever sung the song. We have the this movie itself and the computer. So it's a gun, it's a computer, it's the first song sung by a computer. It's the thing Hal sings when he says, "I can feel it, my mind is going." It's the Daisy Daisy Red Ryder BB gun and Full Metal Jacket. So, Daisy Bell is a song about a bicycle made for two. So, let's put this aside for a minute. And so we have a category of bicycles, and we already have cars, and we have wagons, covered wagons, and we have snow tracks, and we have Mustangs and Morgans, and we have all kinds of vehicles. We have the B-52 jet plane, the Saturn V rocket, the cruise missile, the Sidewinder missile. So we have all kinds of different vehicles. So we have bicycles now. So we have the two-wheel bicycle made for two. We have the tricycle that Danny. Now remember, Danny represents the phone. Hold on a second. Yeah, that was Buzz Aldrin again. He said, "Take it easy with the moonshine jokes," and I told him to go to hell. So anyway, we're back to here is Danny on his tricycle. So Kubrick makes it obvious once you spend a million hours looking at this that this represents the wild child in Kubrick. So this is Kubrick's wild child, and he has control of the big wheel. And the people he works for kind of they ride along with him, but they're not really in control of the big wheel. He's controlling the big wheel, and he's the wild child. So let's move this out of the way. So here's Danny, and of course, the Steadicam leaves no tracks, snow tracks, because it's gyroscopically stabilized. It doesn't need the tracks for the dolly shots. So you got Daisy Bell, bicycle built for two, and then you have, of course, the Nicholson Peter Fonda movie. And let's go here. So you have bicycles. So you got a two-wheel bicycle with two people on it. You got a three-wheel tricycle with one person on it. So we have all kinds of different bikes. So this is what's called a penny farthing bike. And penny farthing bikes were like, originally they were more like toys for the elite. They would ride around their penny farthing bikes. And they're a lot of fun. But there are problems with the penny farthing bike. We're going to get back to this. Just don't forget the penny farthing. Here's another one. Here's another penny farthing. So these are the early days of bicycling. You would ride one of these things around. So we're on bicycles. So, this is not my fan art. Someone did this. This is the Jack Nicholson playing card. But this is a bicycle playing card. So here we have bicycle playing cards. So, we had One-Eyed Jack. I mean, I'm not going to go through all the card allegories of the Ace. Well, we'll do some of them. But Ace, the bomber pilot, Jack Nicholson, Jack Torrance, Jack Kennedy, One-Eyed Jack's Kubrick's movie. So we have the bicycle category now. So you get on this thing, and you kind of have to climb. I'm not sure how they do it, but I think you climb something, and then you kind of push off, or someone gives you a push, and you get going because the feet can't reach the ground. So once you start going, you got to keep going. So you get on your penny farthing bike, and turns out we have another connection to our puzzle. It turns out Columbia Bicycle was the first U.S. bicycle manufacturer. So we have the category of the Columbia CSM, Columbia University, the District of Columbia, the Columbia Ship, the first to circumnavigate the globe, Columbia Pictures, Columbia Records. So Columbia is in our clue set. So Columbia made bicycles. So it's another tie into bicycles. You know, you have Danny's Trike, you have um, Daisy Daisy, bicycle made for two, all for the love of you, and we have the Columbia Bicycle Company. And I noticed that we see the penny farthing in The Simpsons. That's interesting. So you're on your penny farthing. Let's go back to that. You're on your penny farthing, and somebody gives you a push off, and you're moving right along, and you're motoring down the road. And at some point, you come to a hill, and you decide that you want to go down the hill. And what they do is you actually remove your feet from the pedals because at some point you get going so fast that you can't pedal the pedals and you'll actually kill yourself. So what you do is you kind of freewheel. You just let the big wheel go because you don't have that third wheel in the back. You can't really put any brakes on because if you start slowing down too fast, this little wheel lifts off the ground and then you slam into the ground face first. So it's a big drawback to the penny farthing bike. It was a lot of fun, but at the end of the day, if you liked your spine, you probably didn't want to ride one. So the allegory here is, you see, here's a guy here. He got going a little bit too much, and he paid the consequences. You get driven into the concrete head first. So this is allegorically Kubrick's puzzle with this. So let's get a better picture of that. Where the hell did it go now? Anyway, so this is Kubrick. Kubrick's in control of the big wheel. So this two-wheel bicycle, it normally had two wheels, now has a third wheel. It's got Kubrick steering the big wheel. Well, after the Apollo moon fakery is all over, that third wheel gets removed. And things return back the way they used to be, where it was a two-wheel bicycle with a large wheel in the front and a very small wheel in the back. So once Kubrick is done with the Apollo fakery, it's no longer a tricycle, it's a bicycle. And it's a penny farthing bicycle. Why do I know it's a penny farthing bicycle? Because like I said, a penny farthing bicycle, it's a lot of fun, but if you get to a hill and you build up too much momentum, and you need to stop, you're going to have problems. And you're going to smash into the ground head first. So the allegory here is the Apollo moon missions were faked by Kubrick, and he's left so many little breadcrumbs in them that sooner or later, this big wheel is going to get going way too fast. As a matter of fact, it's going to get going so fast that you really can't put any brakes on. You got it once the fakery starts. Once they have the ISS. And once they have the Hubble telescope, and once they have the 25,000 satellites in orbit, and once we have the landings on the moon and the Jade Rabbit, and it's a plethora of fakery, and it isn't just U.S. fakery; it's Russian fakery, and the Chinese are faking it. Everyone's fake. You look at the video that comes back from the Japanese after they orbit the moon, and they do a comparison between that and Google Moon, and it's the same thing with worse resolution. So they basically, this is getting ridiculous. That was Alan Shepard trying to sell me some golf balls. I'm like, no thanks, bro. So you're on your penny farthing, you get going. So this is the fakery. As these missions get faked, after the Apollo fakery takes place, you have the shuttle and all the crap that they try to shove up your ass. It's all bullshit. So this bike gets going way too fast, and that's where we're at right now. The fakery is so obvious, and there's so much of it. You can go back. 40 years now and see the fakery. So this is Kubrick's analogy. At some point, the penny farthing bike, you're not going to be able to slow it down. You can't put your feet on the pedals because it's going so fast, and it's going to crash. So, how did I get the penny farthing? We do that through Alex Koval. Alex Koval is the gentleman that does all the artwork in The Shining, and he was a combat correspondent, and we already had a category of combat correspondence with Joker and Rafterman. A Joker is also known as a bird, and a Rafterman is also known as an admiral. So you have Admiral Bird. And so Koval, he does all the paintings, and he's a combat correspondent, and also he designs coins, and all these coins have Queen Elizabeth on the back of them. And he designs these for Canada, and they have the animals on, the hair, and all the animals. And so this is how we get the coins. So when you first find this, it doesn't really make any sense to you. Just like, okay, coins, great. Now, what does that mean? But it turns out, and I haven't figured all of them out. There's little jokes in here. So you have the penny farthing. Here's what the bicycle is named. So he needed to connect bicycles to coins because we're weaving. These categories are woven together. So the only way I can think to connect bicycles to coins is with the penny farthing bicycle. And of course it fits allegorically. So this is someone riding a penny farthing. They've come down a hill and they're clearly going fast enough where they can't put their feet on the pedal. So you kind of freewheel and you hope that nobody pulls in front of you, because somebody pulls in front of you. So this is the fakery. The fakery goes on and on and on, and it gains speed, and now we're going to go to Mars, and next year we're probably going to go to Venus. But at some point, the people notice that it's a crock of shit, and then you got problems because you can't stop. You've told so many lies at this point. It's inevitable. So there's your penny farthing. There's your coin connection to Alex Colville. He does all the paintings in The Shining. And of course, let's pause this for a second. Here we have David Alexander Colville, and he dies July 16th, 2013. So this is the Trinity Detonation. The first atomic detonation date is July 16th, July 16th, 1945. July 16th, 1969 is the first moon landing. July 16th is the published date in 1951 for J.D. Salinger's book, Catcher in the Rye. July 16th is the date that John dies in 1999. So John dies July 16th, 1999, which just coincidentally happens to be the release date of Eyes Wide Shut. July 16th, 1999. So July 16th is a nexus date. So Kubrick predicts Alex Colville's death and puts him in his movie. Kubrick dies in 1999. So how does he know he's going to die 14 years before he does? I don't know, but he does. So these are the coins. Now we can connect the coin to a bicycle, which is a bizarro. You wouldn't think it would be possible. So you have a bicycle made for two. You have a tricycle. You have a penny farthing bike. So you're going up and down with the different bicycles that are out there. So you have the unicycle, the bicycle, the tricycle, and once you go beyond a tricycle, you end up with a wagon, a covered wagon or whatever, some kind of wagon, if it's four wheels. So you have coins. Let's close. Okay, I'm going to close the bicycles out now. You've seen all this. There's your penny farthing. Oh, there's another interesting penny farthing image I'm going to show you later. So remember the penny farthing. It's part of the allegory that this is what Kubrick was hoping. It's a jack in the box. It's a Trojan horse. Once the Trojan horse comes out, or once the penny farthing gets going too fast, it's game over. And it's going way too fast right now. So we're weaving these things together, disparate things you wouldn't think are related, like playing cards and bicycles are, and coins and bicycles are, and tricycles and bicycles. Computers and bicycles. What else we got here? We see the penny farthing in The Simpsons. Isn't that interesting? And this has nothing to do with this puzzle. I just thought it was a really cool picture. Uh, I got this beautiful woman driving around a tricycle. But anyway, let's move on. So you have the coins. And so he gives you, who was the first president of the United States? It was George Washington. So he gives you the quarter. And then he gives you Lincoln because he gives you the 7/7 date. Or I'm sorry, the April 15th date. The day Lincoln is shot in the back of the head. The date the Titanic sinks. Jackie Robinson Day. The day the B-52 flies for the first time. And of course, the main clue that you're looking for the April 15th thing is it is the Federal Reserve takeover. So Lincoln gets shot in the head, the Titanic sinks, the Donners depart Lincoln, Illinois. It's Jackie Robinson Day, IRS tax day. And so there's your penny. And you have the $50. So remember I said before, Kubrick will always try to throw in the half any way he can. And one example would be the Minotaur. It's half man, half bull. And so here you have Kennedy, and it's a $50, a half bill, dollar bill. You have Dr. Bill. And these are silver. And you have the Mercury dime with silver before it was replaced. So there's this, 1964. 1962, I think, is the first minting of that. And then you have the Lincoln penny. So you've got penny and nickel with Jack Nicholson. I didn't bring the nickels up. Jack Nicholson penny, $50, and then you have the quarter. So he's giving you all the different denominations of currency. And of course, one of the big clues is that Jack pulls out the he says, I got two tens and two 20s. When he pulls the money out, it's money that was actually still backed by metals. It wasn't fiat currency. So Kubrick gives you Lincoln and he gives you Kennedy. These are two men that were fighting the Federal Reserve System, and they both get pine boxes. So let's close this out real quick. All right, this is something I saw the other day that was fascinating. If you haven't seen this story, you need to do a search for it. This is an interview they do with Jay Weidner. Jay's a good guy. He doesn't fart around. So they found this thing in Nazca, and Jay immediately thought it was fake, and then they started looking at it much closer, and it's looking more and more like that it is not fake. So this is something that's on the horizon, and this kind of goes back to the videos I did on the cone heads and the cone head helmet and the cone crater, and oh god, my neighbors are like lighting off howitzers. Sorry about that, guys. That was the spirit of Gus Grissom calling from the other dimension, urging me to continue decoding Kubrick movies. And where was I? So yeah, so this thing's been found. Is it legitimate? I don't know. It's very early on now, but it's fascinating, and well, it's something to keep an eye on. I might even put a link under this. And normally I wouldn't give this much credence, but I see Widener's involved in it. And there was a few doctors that took a look at it, and they were convinced it was real. But anyway, something on the horizon. We'll find out what this thing is. And if it's fake, we'll know. If it's not, we'll know. All right, now we're going to... well, here's some more pictures of it. It looks very fake here. But then when you see the x-ray of it, and you see the doctors talking about... It was coated with some kind of salt that they used to preserve it. All right, now, We're going to go back into the Cuckoo Bird Zone. We're going to go back into time travel, which I've said all along. This puzzle continues to have more and more time travel clues in it. So this is one of the main threads in Admiral Byrd's Operation High Jump. We have Woody Strode in Spartacus. Kubrick directs this, and Woody Strode has Neptune's trident. So in Kubrick's puzzle language, we're always looking for Greek gods and their attributes. And with Apollo, he's a musician. He's a medicine man. He's Doc. He's a bringer of plagues. So we have eugenics, and he plays the lira. So you can have a flat note or a sharp note. So here we have Woody Strode with Neptune's trident. So let's take a look at. All right. Well, actually, we don't even have to take a look at. So here's his attribute, his trident. So in this puzzle, we have a category of horses. It's extensive, and we also have in Blade Runner, we have the unicorn, and we have the Mustang, and we have the Morgan, and we have the Red Lightning, and we have the Blackjack, and we have what's another one? So there's all these. Oh, here we go. Here's Blade Runner. So we also have a category of flying cars. So we have the Antarctic Cruiser it's a sort of a truck car with an airplane on top, so it can fly or it can drive as a car. We have the Matador that's in the Bond movie. It's a flying car, and also it's designed by Oleg Cassini, Jackie O's fashion designer. So we have flying cars, and we have the beetle. A beetle is a bug. It can crawl. It can fly. So then we have Blade Runner. We have a horse. It's a unicorn. And so we have this category of horses. And we have King Neptune and his trident in Spartacus. So we know we're using Greek gods and their attributes. So what, if any, is Poseidon's horse's name? So it turns out Poseidon, King Neptune, gave birth. He was the father of Pegasus, the horse Pegasus. So Pegasus is a mythical flying horse again. So we have Apollo and his 4 flying horses. And we see the same 4 flying horses on the Apollo 13 insignia on the mission patch. And so we have a category of horses. So earlier in the puzzle, we had connections to the rainbow in Barry Lyndon. Little Brian is told that all the colors of together produce only one, Brian. And we have the Over the Rainbow and Under the Rainbow costume shop. And Don't You Want to Go Where the Rainbow Ends. And we have connections to a movie, Rocky, filmed in Philly. And Philly is a horse. And Sylvester is a Looney Tune. And he's the Italian Stallion, which is a horse. And he plays Rocky, which is a rock. And his last name is Balboa, a snake. So we're being clued into Philadelphia, Rainbow, and Pegasus. This would be King Neptune's. King Neptune is like the in Greek mythology. He creates the first horse, apparently, and he's the father of Pegasus. Medusa, I think she gets her head cut off by Perseus, and then out of her head comes Pegasus, the flying mythical horse. So, we're clearly being included into horses in Kubrick's puzzle. We see them in Blade Runner. We see King Neptune, and we already know we're looking for Greek gods, and we have every attribute of Apollo is basically in the puzzle, including his sacred animal, the dolphin, where we see the Dolphins, Miami Dolphins jacket on the luggage porter in The Shining. So we have Pegasus. And so here we have a short summary here. The myth of Pegasus was the son of mortal Medusa and Poseidon, which this would be Neptune and Poseidon, they're synonyms. So Neptune is the father of Pegasus, and it turns out that Pegasus um, is rumored to be a secret DARPA project involving teleportation and time travel that happened on Long Island. So that's weird. And it also had another name. And the other name it had was the Montauk Project, which is an Indian tribe name. And it turns out the puzzle is filled with Indian tribes. And they're hidden, but they're in there. We have Barry Nelson tells us that the motifs are basically Navajo and Apache motifs in the Overlook. He tells us it's built on an Indian graveyard, um, which is a theme in Stephen King movies or Stephen King books. He always has the Indian graveyard he likes to sneak in. So the entire of the United States is an Indian graveyard. I mean, we didn't find this country. We found this country and killed all the people, or tried to kill all the people that owned it. And we always seem to forget that, though. We always in school they talked about how Columbus found America and all this, and it's all a crock of shit. It's a genocide of the Indians. So Kubrick gives you numerous, and as you see Indian pictures um, on the walls in The Shining, we see the Calumet baking powder, which is Calumet's peace pipe in Indian. Um, so you have all these references to Indian. We see the helicopter that's used in Full Metal Jacket. Let me pause this so I can find it. Okay, and this is another category that I don't have the whole thing yet, but I have enough where you can see there's a category. In The Shining, there's a continuity error. In the beginning of the movie, we see the shadow of the Bell Jet Ranger. And, you know, if you know anything about Stanley Kubrick, there is nothing. It just doesn't happen. There's no such thing as a continuity error. If there's a continuity error, it was intentional because he would shoot the scene 500 times. If he needed to shoot it 500 times to get what he wanted, he'd shoot it 500 times. If he needed to shoot it three times to get what he wanted, he'd shoot it three. But my point is, he would always shoot it until it was as near to perfection as he could get. And his level of his standards were very high. So the fact that we see a Bell Jet Ranger shadow, this is the Jungian shadow of the Bell Jet Ranger, is not unintentional. So with this right here, he's giving you the helicopter. So we already know we're looking for choppers. He chopped his family up. So you can have Jack's Collins axe as a chopper, Wendy's bread knife as a chopper. Scatman talks about it's like burnt toast on slices of bread that are chopped up, pairs of slices of bread. Um, and also, and I don't have a picture of this yet, but I will find it. There's a scene in Full Metal Jacket where we get to see the shadows of the helicopters on the clouds. And the shadows of one of the helicopters is incorrect. It's a Bell Jet Ranger. So there's like a thread of Bell Jet Rangers that go through this. And we're given these because Lady Bird Johnson owned Bell Helicopter. That's one of the reasons we're given this is Lady Bird Johnson owned Bell Helicopters. So when Vietnam broke out, Lady Bird Johnson, her family became extremely wealthy. And, they still build helicopters to this day. So I don't know if the Johnsons are still hooked into it. But so he gives you the helicopter, the chopper. And, we have the Captain America chopper in Easy Rider. We have the door gunner in the chopper, the Doors of Perception chopper, and that scene in that movie is actually a clue to Coriolis because the guy Joker asks him, "How can you shoot women and children?" And he goes, "Easy, you just don't lead them as much." So he's telling you that when you're in a helicopter moving at a certain speed and you fire your weapon out the door, you have to lead your targets because you're not stationary, you're moving. There's going to be a certain amount of pull to one way or the other. So he says you have to lead them less because they're smaller targets. Well, If the Earth was really rotating and you were on a shooting range and you were shooting north to south, you should see the bullet deflect one way when you shoot south and a different way when you shoot north. And in the real world, you don't see either of those. And I speak with experience in that because I've been to numerous long distance shooting competitions with professionals that they all, I mean, these are guys, they sit down and they weigh the cartridges and mic them, and then they select out of 100 cartridges they select 5 or 6 cartridges that are identical. They're, the internal dimensions are the same, the external dimensions are the same, they're head spaced to their weapon, and this is what they do. They know everything about the weapon. They reload the shells one at a time and they shoot the target. And I talk to all of them. No one ever uses Coriolis. So, you know, that's a problem because you would need to lead the target or you would need to tail the target one way or the other, depending on which way you're shooting. And if you're shooting east to west, there should be no offset, apparently. But it doesn't matter what way you shoot. There's no offset at all. Coriolis and the rotation of the Earth are a crock of shit. So I got a little off track there. But so Tim Kelsary in the chopper door, where he says you don't have to lead him so much, is a flat Earth clue as well. So we have a chopper. So let's move on. There's one chopper. Or two choppers. We have the Shadow and Full Metal Jacket of the Bell Jet Raiders with the Shadow we see in Shining. So there's two. It's a pair. So now we go to Full Metal Jacket, and they're flying around the Wessex chopper. And it looks very much like the chopper that we used in Vietnam, but it isn't the right one. So, knowing Kubrick, nothing is unintentional. I mean, it probably would have been very difficult for him to get the correct chopper, but it doesn't really matter because he doesn't even need the correct chopper. He can give you the wrong chopper, and you'll immediately know that, oh, it's the wrong chopper. So we need to find out what was the real chopper. So this is a Wessex. Let me see. Yeah, it's a Wessex. That's all I know. There's another name on it. It's a Wessex something or other. So this is not the correct chopper. This is not the correct chopper. Here's another shot from the movie. This is the correct chopper. So if you were in Vietnam and you had a chopper that looked like this or very close to this, it was the Choctaw, Choctaw. So this is another Indian tribe. So there's a pattern of Bell helicopter. You would have to look up the names of all their choppers. But if you look at the Bell or Sikorsky, not even just Bell, or actually it may just be just Sikorsky. I got to find out. But they name their helicopters after Indian tribes, like at the Cherokee, and I'm going to do more on research. This helicopter thing is relatively new right now, but there's enough to show you that it's a repeating thing. So he's giving you the Choctaw Indians with this. And so we're on time travel now. So we got the choppers and the shadow of the chopper. So here's the real Sikorsky Choctaw in Vietnam. And here they are. It's the UH-34 Choctaw. So here they are in the USS Princeton. And let's go. All right, now we're going to go into the Cuckoo Zone now. So I want you to watch this short clip right here.
12:46 a.m. 12:46 a.m. 12:46 a.m.
So there's a couple things to note in this scene. One of the things is in this movie, both Mike, oh, both Michael Paré and his co-star chain smoked through the whole movie. I mean, he's smoking everywhere. So you have the chain smoking clue, and now we have talking computer clue, and they inserted this in the scene, and even make a point of it. He keeps pushing the button, and it tells him what time. So it's a talking clock. Okay. Oh yeah, the cuckoo clock and the watch with the white metal wristlet, and you sold me a crappy watch and shove it up your ass, and the grandfather clock and the atomic clock and all the clocks that are in this and he had the time repeated 237 times. So he has a talking alarm clock. It's a talking computer alarm clock. That's very interesting. So now let's pause. Let's take another look at a different clip in this movie. All right, we're gonna watch this scene, and you've really got to be sharp. You got to be on your toes to pick this up. But I'm gonna play it, and then we're gonna talk about it.
I am.
You're very well thought of here, too.
I just know when I get to LA, something's gonna work out. It's gonna be fine. What pisses me off is that jerk Michael. I'm usually a good judge of character. Does the music bother you?
Okay, I want you to look right here at this car.
Don't you want to have kids?
You don't have to be married to do that.
I'm never gonna agree with that.
You want a Coke?
Yeah. How'd you do that? Hey, that's pretty neat.
Why'd you join the Navy?
You know the old saying. Girl in every port?
You like to travel?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Do you mind?
Go ahead.
That's me.
It's nice.
What is that?
Oh, I think it's a Porsche.
Now that's really me.
So in Kubrick's puzzle, we're using vehicles, and it turns out Stanley was actually a Porsche owner himself. He had a 928. So we see the 911. The car passes him, and they remark on it. She tells him it's a Porsche. It's a Porsche 911. So that's pretty weird. Why did this need to? Clearly, this was part of the dialogue of the movie, and it was, so they had to hire a guy to drive the car who had a Porsche, and they had to arrange it so the camera was going to be right here as they drove by, and it had to be in the. So somebody wrote this dialogue that that Porsche was going to be in it, and decided it would be a 911. So that's bizarre. And some of the other things I wanted to mention in the scene, she says, "Do you want a Coke?" And she hands him a Coke with the label facing. So this is advertising. But we have Coca-Cola in the puzzle already. We have Mr. Coca-Cola and the King of Pop from Michael Jackson. And so she says, "You want a Coke?" Hands him a Coke, and they're driving in a Grand Cherokee. So there's a category of grand. We have the grand piano on the Overlook. We have the Grand Overlook Lodge. We have the Millennium Falcon, and a picture is worth 1,000 words. And Red Room, the five-time Grand National Champion. So Grand is repeated over and over and over and over and over in the puzzle already. So they're driving a Grand Cherokee. So the first part of it, Grand, is in the puzzle. The second part of it is once again an Indian name. So we had the Choctaw helicopter. We had the Navajo and Apache motifs in The Shining, and all the pictures of Indians in The Shining, and the Indian rugs, and the Indian cosmogony tapestry that Jack throws the tennis ball at. And it's built on an Indian graveyard, and we had to fight off a few Indian attacks when the old place was being built, is what Barry Nelson says, which is a lie. And we have Crazy Earl says, "I'll play General Custard." General Custard fought against Crazy Horse and Sitting Bull. So you have a bull and a horse, it's woven together. So here we have a very strange scene where they see a 911 pass them. And if you watch this scene, and I'm not going to go through it bit by bit, but the car appears behind them, and then it disappears, and then it reappears. So during this scene, this car disappears and reappears, and then it passes them. And it's meandering behind them for a while. It's clearly was done intentionally with a reason. So here we are in a different scene from the movie, and a car pulls up, and it's the Charger. So the Charger is the same thing as the Roadrunner, is the same thing as the Plymouth Satellite, which is the same thing as the Challenger. So when we see the Hemi Roadrunner in The Shining, it's the same car. You know, there's a different grill on it, and they put the horn that goes beep beep, and that's about it. You know, you either pay for the Hemi or you get whatever engine you get. But so we have another car that's seen in the movie, distinctive in the movie in one of the scenes, and it's of course the same car we see in The Shining, same year even. So let's close this. So it's the same movie, the Philadelphia Experiment. Where's the rest of these? So they're driving a Grand Cherokee. We see the Challenger. Let me pause this to find the rest of them. This is one that I don't own this picture, but I love it. This guy here, I'll leave a link to his artwork. He actually other alchemical artwork as well. So use your own imagination as to what this represents. Now, I've already drawn the assertion that the penny farthing bike is allegorically the bicycle we're being pointed to from Kubrick. And he's telling us that, you know, as you go downhill with the penny farthing moon fakery, it gains speed, and at some point you can't stop. And it looks like this guy he's leaving the Overlook Ball. It looks like he's just left there. And the training wheels have been removed. He's driving the penny farthing now, and he's all alone. And he tied it on his finger because he's got a lot of things he has to remember. You know, every time you tell a lie, there's 20 other things you have to remember. So that's interesting. I love this work. I hope I don't get in trouble for using it. If I do, I'll just take the video down. But so you know, there you go. We see Chevron. We see Chevron oil in The Thing. You know, we see Phillips Conoco in The Shining. So he's giving you the oil company. You get a barrel of oil, a barrel of monkeys, a double barrel, a single barrel whiskey. So barrels is a category. And clearly the oil companies, the Seven Sisters, are involved in this puzzle as well. So here they are in the Philadelphia Experiment. So there's the Choctaw Indians. So that's part of the Indians category. We have Neptune's Trident, his horse Pegasus. We have Rainbow from Eyes Wide Shut. And we have so the only other name, this is interesting, and I haven't gotten into this movie yet, but we're starting to see threads from Smoking the Bandit now. Okay, so the project, we have Neptune's Trident. So Neptune's mythical horse is Pegasus. So the time travel program in Montauk, Long Island, its first name was Rainbow, Project Rainbow. And that happens on the ship. And then it moves from there to Montauk, Long Island. So it was Rainbow, then it was Project Pegasus. So we have the Project Pegasus horse. And then finally it was the Montauk Project. So I had 3 different names. And actually, I had 4 different names. So it was Project Montauk, Rainbow, Pegasus, and then the last name was, let me find it here first. So the only other name we're missing is the Project Phoenix. So we're pointed to Smokey and the Bandit, and what do we have on the hood of John DeLorean's Firebird? We have the Phoenix. So that's all 4 names of this project. Project Phoenix, Project Pegasus, Project Rainbow, and the Montauk Project, which is an Indian tribe. So we can do every different permutation of the name of this project. Isn't that interesting? And we have numerous clues into the Montauk Indians with Sikorsky and the Aztec and Navajo motifs, and the Calumet pipe, and it's built on an Indian graveyard. So here we are in the Philadelphia Experiment, and the storm is coming, and they're at this junction, and they're in a a horse trailer. So we have horses in the movie right away. Can't leave that category out. So we see a nice hot rod turning around, and it's a Chevy Camaro. So let's do this. Pause this. So here we have a Chevy Camaro. We know it's a Chevy Camaro because this is actually a really nice Chevy Camaro. It's been modified quite a bit. This is not stock, but so we have a Chevy Camaro here, and we know that because it's got the two lights, and I think the badge is missing. But these are stock Chevy Camaro wheels. We know it's a Chevy Camaro. So the Chevy Camaro was a pony car, of course, because we have the Mustang and we have the Falcon. They were both pony cars. So we have Chevy's pony car, the Camaro. Well, the Camaro was also a pony sister car to the Firebird, which this car was designed by John DeLorean. So we have a pair here, with the Firebird and the Camaro. So that I find fascinating. So here's another scene from the movie, and they're riding in the back of this horse trailer to escape from the police, and there's two horses here, and they start becoming intimate, and we notice one of the horses has a little white dot on his head. So it's another bizarre. And of course, we have, it's a pair of horses, and horses are very prominent in our puzzle. Um, we have the unicorn, and we have Pegasus, and we have blackjack and red room and red lightning and white lightning and yada yada yada. It goes on. Horse and Train by Colville, Horse and Church by Colville. And Red Room, the 5-time Grand National Champion. So Red Room, allegorically, is the audience, the sages, the people out there that are watching this video that actually care and actually could figure this stuff out. You are Red Room, and you have a long way to go for the finish line, but you are the 5-time Grand National Champion. So you need to get the stirrups. You get the Spur Crater on Apollo 15. You get Saddle Rock on Apollo 15. So you're in the saddle, you're riding Red Room, and you got the spurs, and you're kicking it, and you got a lot of hurdles to get over. Oh, this is a good one. I said before there's restaurants in it, but there's more than that. He doesn't just give you a random restaurant. He gives you Howard Johnson. So you have Lyndon Johnson, and this is another slang word for your Johnson, your Peter, your mineshaft, your Peter's projection, your Dick Nixon, your Cock, your Woody, And then you have Howards. You have Arliss Howard. Hang on, let me pause this and I'll get the Howards up. So here we go. We got Ron Howard. And let's see here. Howard Johnson's. E. Howard Hunt. Curly Howard, he's in the puzzle. Kevin Major Howard. Howard Johnson's. Arliss Howard. Kevin Major Howard. Ron Howard, the director. Opie Taylor, the redhead from the Andy Griffith Show. I think that's all of them. Oh, Howard Dean Stanton, an alien. Ron Howard. And Ron Howard is Willow. That's his movie. So you get the idea. It's a repeating pattern. So let's pause. So you got Howard Johnson. So this is a double, right? This is a doublet. I guess you would call this in Lewis Carroll language. It's a doublet. So Howard's is a category and Johnson's is a category. You have Lyndon Johnson. You have Danny is John's son. Danny is Jack's son. That's how you get Jackson and Johnson. It's always father and son. And you have Don Johnson. He's the one that's in A Boy and His Dog. So all the famous Johnsons will be in here, and I don't have. Jack Johnson is here, the boxer. I love that Jack Johnson quote, though. I'm gonna repeat it again because I just love it so much. He was accosted by the mafiosa, and they told him that he needed to throw his next fight, and his response was, "Well, you better fucking shoot me right now because I gotta knock that motherfucker out." So that's the attitude we gotta have with this stuff. We gotta flip it around. We gotta get Red Room in a full-on gallop. And so this is a doublet, Howard Johnson, and of course it's a restaurant. And I think the rest of the stuff is just um, bits and pieces. This is Kubrick. This is the first picture he takes. This is the day after Roosevelt dies. These are things I found on the net I just liked. This one's good. The distance to the sun. It's such a precision measurement. It varies. Even Tycho didn't even know where the hell it was. And so we have the Coca-Cola, Mr. Coca-Cola, and you have Keenan Wynn, and he has to shoot the lock off the Coca-Cola machine, and says, "You're gonna have to answer to Mr. Coca-Cola." And you have the King of Pop is Michael Jackson, and so it's Pop Goes the Weasel, Jack in the Box, Trojan Horse, all the same thing, all allegorically the same thing. It's a puzzle, and once it pops up, you are screwed. And you have the Phoenix and Smokey and the Bandit, and I think he says, "I'm gonna call you Hopper because I'd like to jump you." And there's all these little hopping, jumping, leaping, and he's in Playgirl. And so this is our clue to King Neptune. And since we already know the puzzle has a large category of horses, when we find King Neptune, and also this isn't the first and only, we go to Back to the Future and we have the Neptune under the sea dance, just like Kubrick had his swing under the Nazis. And you got the jump salute, so we're jumping, leaping, hopping, bunny hopping, easy ridering, Tom cruising. There's the Whirlpool Coriolis clue. I don't always kill my drill instructor, but when I do, I prefer 308 caliber full metal jacket. That's pretty good. That's just silly. There's the Minotaur. Whee! I still haven't completed the monkey category yet, but it's interesting. And, the vaccine lie. I said we're using boots and shoes. So Jack wears the Timberline shoes, and these boots were made for walking, and so there's a bunch of them. So one of the clues we get is the grip, the Velcro grip shoes. And the Hilton, so we have Conrad Hilton, the most famous Corona, New Mexico resident. This is really good. I mean, you can't argue with this one. So let's expand this a little so you can see this. So this is the photo of the wreck claimed to be the Titanic on top. And then we go down, and this is black and white viewing, so they've cleaned this up a bit. And this is a photo of the Olympic. So is this photo right here the Olympic, or is this photo right here the Titanic? Do your own math on that one. So we're using helicopters. I said this before. They're choppers. We're using because we're chopping our family up and stacking them neatly in the West Wing. So this is the Choctaw Indian chopper. So we see the shadow of the Bell Jet Ranger in this movie, and I'll find a picture of that. But we see the shadow of the wrong chopper. This has a very distinctive shape. When you see this shadow next to a Bell Jet Ranger, it's very easy to identify that you're seeing the wrong shadow. So we see the wrong shadow in the chopper footage in the clouds. Like I said, there's no such thing as a continuity error unless it's intentional with Kubrick. So he's intentionally giving you the shadow of the Bell Jet Ranger. He's giving you the Choctaw Indian helicopter, but he doesn't use the right chopper. He uses the wrong chopper to clue you in that you're looking for the Choctaw. This automobile, if there's an automobile expert out there that knows what kind of car this is, he refers to it as an old Chevy, and I'd be very curious to actually what vehicle this is. And there are people that would know. I know people that know vehicles so well they can just basically get a glance at something and they know what it is. So there's somebody out there. And so you have the jump salute, and then you have the 40,000 year jump cut. When Arthur C. Clarke talks about this scene, he talks about it, and he calls it the jump cut. So you have the jump salute over here, and you got the jump cut over here. Now remember, during this cut, the rotational swing direction of this bone is mirrored. It's spinning one direction, it stops, it cuts, it's spinning the other direction, it cuts, and it turns into a space station. So any kind of mirroring is always a clue. So it's the bone weapon, it's the billy club, the blackjack. Here's the secret subbase that Kubrick lights. So this is we must supply our own light. So he's supplying light for a secret subbase. So, let me think about that for a second. Maybe he's talking about we may want to consider the possibility that some of the extremely wealthy oligarchs of the world have their own fleet of submarines and their own little private islands and whatever else outside the dome, maybe. So you got Tim Colser. So this is, I think, one of the scenes where we see how you see the shadow of the helicopter, and this is the correct one. Well, it's not really the correct one. This is the Wessex. This is the wrong one, but it's the right one for the chopper they're in. But in one of the scenes, you'll see a Bell Jet Ranger shadow in here, and of course, it's always at the limit of perception. To see the 911 behind the car disappear, you have to be watching specifically and know what you're looking for. So Pegasus is a mythical flying horse. The unicorn is a mythical, magical horse with a one horn on it. I mean, how many mythical horses can you name? Pegasus, and that's the only one I know. I'm sure there are others, but there's a little clue to the Dutch moon rock right there. I love this one. Just and this little lamb is so cute and so dopey looking. It really is quite funny. Yeah, this is good. Talking to astronauts on the moon, and this is the first, only, and last live video telephone conference to the moon, and we saw no latency. So this is amazing because I did not know this, but somehow Tricky Dick Nixon exceeded the speed of light in his telephone call. So that's pretty amazing, you know. This is a really bizarre photo I found today that blew me away. This is a children's playground in like the 1800s. I mean, can you imagine this now? Can you imagine the parents of the children now? They'd be like, my kid. And it almost looks like this kid's falling. I thought this kid was falling, but he's not. He's on a swing. So, but I mean, this kid's up here. These kids were agile, you know. This is a little kid right here, and he's like playing around. Yeah, I go up 20 feet. No big deal. So, you know, you think that humanity is progressing. I don't think so. At least not physically. So I'm going to go into this movie more in the next video. But it's woven in the puzzle. And it's woven in with, you know, one way it's woven in is 9/11. And let me pause it. You know, we go back to the Sgt. Pepper's album, and we have When I Actually Die. This is 9/11 because the British reversed it around. So this is 9/11, not 11/9. And we got another 9/11 here. We already know we're using vehicles. We already know Kubrick has a 928. So we have a Beetle in the puzzle. The Beetle, really, if you know automobiles, the Beetle is the father of the 911. They both have boxer engines. One has a 4-cylinder boxer and the other one has a 6-cylinder boxer. So in as much as you think these two vehicles, the Beetle and the 911, are completely different, they're in the same family. They're related. And clearly the Beetle is its father. And I think that's it for this one. And I'm going to add one more thing on the end here. It is the 4th of July, and you know we were told that we declared our independence from England, but in reality, that's a lie. And I'll leave a link to this under my video, and if you want to watch it, you know it really goes through the whole lie that we were told about you know our independence. And it's 4th of July, guys. So have a great 4th of July. Be safe. and I'm going to do another video, and I'm going to go into the Philadelphia experiment and all the little threads that connected into the puzzle. And it's becoming fascinating. And the time travel, time, whatever we're talking about, teleportation, connections to Philadelphia, Pegasus, Montauk, Phoenix, Rainbow. We have connections into the Eldridge is a Greek Playboy model. I mean, it's just getting ridiculous on how many threads are connecting us to Philadelphia experiment, time travel. We have Kubrick's puzzle where he's predicting, Alex Kova will die July 16th, 2013, 14 years after he's dead. So it really is getting fascinating here, and they clearly are really magic threads. And that's it, guys. Have a great night.